Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's Tuesday, April 11th, and I'm reconvening the recessed April 4th, 2023 budget workshop. Today's April 11th, and we have several departments on the agenda for tonight. I'm Laura Danshaw. I'm going to be chairing this committee. We have Dawn with us today. Hi, Dawn. We'll start with the health department. Andrea's here. No worries. We're going to go to page 31 for the health department, for those following along.
Oh, no.
Once again, we appreciate your modest increase of just under 5%.
So,
Do you want to go through, and then we'll just ask questions if any after?
Sure. So, am I to just go through each line, or?
Just like point out the significant changes or anything that you want to point out that might be of issue next year.
Okay. So, of course, always payroll is going to increase on account of either increases associated with contracts. We have both town-funded, supervisors union and town hall employees, as well as other at-will folks. I don't know if you can hear me. My part-time payroll increased because we have a health educator who is partially funded by town and partially funded by grants. And I really don't want to lose Walter.
Mm-hmm.
He's amazing. He's really been an incredible asset. Walter Owusu has been a great asset to our department. And I've had some increases in equipment services. I think that's corresponds to cell phones. And, things like, because we have managed and will continue to manage a fair amount of vaccines, we need what are called temperature data loggers so that, God forbid, I lose a power in the building, it sends us messages. It sends myself or one of my nurses so that we can respond. And, we have a backup plan. So we have another refrigerator that we purchased through grant monies that lives in the fire department basement. So we can, make some of those changes. Outside services increased, let's see, and that's really related to, increases in the kinds of really subscriptions that we have. So Canva is something that we use for our posters or flyers, or Zoom accounts, because we do have to pay for those. And some of our language services. So, as you know, we just put forth a change in our ordinance for nail salons, and because language is an issue, so that we had things translated into Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, Spanish, and of course in English. Cablevision is also contributes to that increase. And then really the last, no, that's not true. Let's see. The vaccine line increased because many of our grants that are related to vaccines do not accommodate having us have EpiPens. And if any of you ever have to use an EpiPen, you know that set gets to be expensive. And so with each clinic, we need to have an EpiPen, and they expire. Usually they have a year's expiration date. Plus, for the last 20 years, our medical advisor had given us sort of pro bono services for looking at our standing order. So in order for my nurses to be able to give vaccines, you have to have medical standing orders from a physician. And Dr. Bertini retired, and our one who also did our pediatrician, so we have adult and a pediatrician, he agreed to take on both, and he now charges us, which I can't say no to that, because he really is very helpful. And then for the miscellaneous, we, as you know, we're nationally accredited, and we went through reaccreditation. It's a 5-year process, but as part of that, there's an annual fee. So the Public Health Advisory Board changed their fee structure, and now they charge an annual fee. And so I have half of it coming from my per capita grant, which we get from the state, and then half from the town. So those really kind of, look at the increases mostly.
So that 2,800 is just half of the cost of the accreditation?
It's a $5,600 fee that we pay every year.
Every year, jeez.
Yeah. Didn't used to be every year, but you would also then have a large fee. For instance, you see that $8,000 from 2022. That was the fee for us to pay to go through reaccreditation.
Yeah. Thank you for that. A quick question. Does the town have a Canva license, or do you maintain your own Canva license for the software? You have, you have a license, right?
Various departments have that license.
Anybody else have any questions for the health department? Mr. O'Brien?
Hey, Andrea, every month it seems like at the council meetings we hear about more grants the health department gets. What would you say you received in grants over the past year?
I can tell you that. So we get about, from the town, it's about $800 or $900, and we get about $400 or $500, $1,000. Sorry, from grants. So I can't find my. I printed out so I could share with you how much we had coming in this year. So it does seem like a lot. And part of that is because there is a fair amount of COVID money, and we are trying our darndest to bend with what the grant allows you to pay for. So I'm currently in the middle of a big grant that doesn't allow me to pay for clinics, but it has to cover COVID, so it's a little bit challenging. It is, and this new workforce developments, because public health has largely been underfunded for at least a good decade or more, and so this is a pass-through from the Centers for Disease Control through the State Health Department to try and bolster training, because some of us are aging and we may be retiring, and so you need to be able to, kind of really make sure that your workforce is up and coming. And so that, I don't know if that really answers your question, but. Yeah, I mean, we do. I mean, I feel blessed. We do excel at writing grants, and we also, I think, excel at collaborating. So we just had a grant that was probably maybe 2 months ago, where we collaborate with Tammy's team in Community and Senior Services to do outreach for vaccinations, and so we're be badgering people in the fall about flu.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for that and for all your work that you do for the town. Any other questions for Andrea? Seeing none, thank you so much for coming out tonight.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Appreciate it. Next up, we have Community Services, and I see Tammy's with us. Community Services, page 30. Thank you for coming out.
Oh, yeah, it's a beautiful night. It's delightful to be here. Everyone found the page okay? We're good? Okay. So as you can see, our budget is, again, pretty straightforward, and I'm happy to provide some clarification, but if you would, just indulge me for a moment, because I would love to just shine the spotlight on a few items of our work. And I think I'm going to actually piggyback a little bit on what Andrea just said, and I think what I am most proud of is the partnerships that we're able to develop, which really allows us to be of tremendous service to youth and families in our community. And one of the things this year that it really resonates with me, the concept that the work that we do is moving at the speed of relationships. And I'm so lucky that we have people that want to be in relationship with our team, our department, and the work that we do. So, for example, just with public safety alone, our juvenile review board work, where we support about 60 young people each year that have kind of brushed up against some difficulties, and we're able to keep them out of the juvenile justice system. And that's only because we have people working together with us. And then I like to call her my new best friend, Danielle, the embedded social worker at the police department, who's with us thanks to Recovery Network of Programs. And that's been a tremendous asset to the town and to our team. Of course, we work very closely with the public schools. This year, we also partnered with them on the development of something called Project Uplift, which is an additional team to support students at school who are showing us some behaviors of concern so that we can get in there and really give them what they need early on before things really escalate in their lives. And then for years, we've worked on the after-school programs with the 21st Century Grant. Something new, so we like to maintain relationships, but we try to keep growing them, is that our counselors just completed the fire setting interventionist specialist training so that they will be teaming with the fire marshal to work with young people and to hopefully get at that, which can be a very serious issue. And then we're also going to be purchasing some materials that are developmentally appropriate stories for children, and we're going to read them first starting with our friends over at the South End Community Center, and they are on topics of anxiety and bullying behavior. So we read the story and then we have a chance to talk about it. But it really gives children an opportunity to talk about feelings and that that's normal and okay. And so those are just some new things that I just had to share with you because it's exciting. Counseling is, probably what you think of first when you think about community services. Of course, that continues to be very robust. We provide individual youth, couples counseling, family therapy. Primarily, we see people coming in around, or young people with anxiety, depression, family conflict. I'm very excited to tell you right now today we do not have a wait list. So that has been something we've really struggled to keep up with, but thanks to some additional resources and additional networks of support like Project Uplift, like the embedded social worker, it helps us to do our work as well. We're still offering telehealth, but most people are coming in person, but it's a nice option for some of our families. So we have evening sessions 4 nights a week. We're there till 8 o'clock. And then our partnership for youth and families, of course, works diligently on behavioral health promotion, substance abuse prevention, and lots is happening at the South End Community Center. The new roof is going on and some great renovations, and that is so exciting to see the new things that are going to be happening there. So that just had to take a moment. Thank you for giving me that time. But essentially, there's a few little adjustments I asked for the budget. First, of course, is the payroll, which has to do with, contractual increases and settlements. Now that we can get back in person, there's more in-person training, and so it used to be virtual training was free, but now there are some, fees for professional development. We want to make sure that we keep our team strengthened and at capacity. And then with that comes a little more travel, right? So we didn't have to really drive too much, so a little bit there. And then, the cost of materials are going up, so asked for a little bit there. So, thank you so much. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much for everything you do for all of the residents here in town. We're lucky to have this facility here. Does anybody have any questions for Tammy?
Just a comment.
Yeah.
Something you said, Tammy, reminded me of over the years, the many workshops and seminars and community services I would attend with people from all over the state. And they all said the same thing over and over. The way Stratford collaborates is very unusual compared to the towns they're from. And thanks to you, a lot of that happens.
Well, it's thanks to everybody because they're willing to to partner. But yeah, that trust is important, and it serves us well.
Very nice. Hearing no further questions on community services, we can move on to the senior center.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to do senior center? It's
I didn't realize they were right in the book.
page 34. And we also have Doug Holcomb here from the GBTA.
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Can you get me a water too?
No, I'm kidding. I just wanted him to do something. No,
Good. So the Senior Center, Baldwin Center, another great service that our town has.
Okay, so we'll start there, and then I'll turn over to Doug to talk a little bit about, more specifically about transportation. But again, I'm just going to stay on the same, my same theme tonight is partnership. That again, thanks to many others, we're able to serve our older residents. Again, indulge me, please. I just have to share some of that excitement from the Baldwin Center. Trust me, it's a going operation every day. So to get you started, I brought the April edition of the Baldwin Beacon, which will give you the lineup for this month. And every month it changes, and every month we're adding things. We get a lot of great ideas from our members, and wherever we can, we try to add that programming. A lot of it are programs that the seniors recommend themselves, and they actually facilitate and run them. So that's always great to have that kind of engagement. So right now we have approximately 120 people that come in each and every day. That's up 20% from last year. One of our grant-funded programs, it's called Senior Connection. And so we monitor that by what they call units of service. And in that particular program, just to give you a number, we had 4,000 units of service in 1 year, reaching 300 seniors. And that is absolutely one of our most beloved programs. That's where we develop Stratford Walks, Sit and Dance, and our newest addition, if you saw it in the mayor's e-newsletter, cardio drumming. And if you've never done it, you gotta do it. It's just loads of fun. I'm also, of course, coming from community services, so excited to be resuming intergenerational programming. This week is spring break, as you know, and every day we have the kids on campus from Sterling House coming over and joining us with activities. So that's a lot of fun, too. And then our Baldwin Gallery, we are showcasing senior art on the second floor. So really lots of good things happening. It's also full steam ahead with human services and social services. We anticipate processing 500 energy assistance applications and Operation Fuel applications, over 400 renters rebate applications, and we've assisted 50 people with Medicare and SNAP applications. For our part of transportation, so we have drivers and buses, and we provided 4,500 rides in a year's time, and about half of those are actually trips to the center, people coming in to be at the center, and the other half are medical appointments and shopping. And our human services social workers are working with over 100 people every year around everything from housing, food, home care, just a variety of needs. If I could just highlight some of our extra special partners, of course the health department, public safety, housing authority, the library, who's here tonight, of course, Sterling House, the Y. Those are just sort of our signature sponsors, but we just have so many that we work with, including GBT, of course, which you'll hear more about. And one of the things that we were able to do at Baldwin Center this year that I'm also really proud of the engagement is that we had 50 people join us with a subject matter expert to learn about hoarding disorder and what are best practices and how can we really help in those situations. So again, really grateful for the partnerships. Again, our budget is really pretty much the same. There is the increase, of course, due to contractual settlements. I've asked for an increase for our part-time scheduler. She does a lot of tremendous work, and she has to help with grant reporting. And then also, I have seen that we have a need to be able to have some extra pay, overtime pay for our social worker. It doesn't always end at 4:30. And so I need to have the ability to pay her when she has to stay later and help us.
Is that when we're late?
No, it is not when you're late. So would you like to hear from... Would you like to hear from Doug next about GBT, or would you-
Absolutely, yes.
Sure
Thank you
thing.
for
And
coming out tonight, Doug.
Doug's
Okay,
a
sure.
tremendous partner.
Thank
So, thanks. I'm Doug Holcomb, General Manager, Greater Bridgeport Transit, and I've been there 22 years now. And our ask is the same as it's been under my watch for the last 12 as General Manager, 18,620, something like that. And we're not asking for an increase, and we're in good shape that way. And let me just share a couple things that the town gets from us. You have several really productive fixed route services, the Coastal Link, our Route 10, which serves the southern part of town. We have the Route 23 and the Route 15. Collectively, those routes do about 170,000 boardings a month. They're not all in Stratford because they're regional services. Then we do the ADA service for people with disabilities. There's about, I looked before I came here tonight, about 7,000 trips since the beginning of the year that either have an origin or destination in Stratford, and you currently have 275 people registered for the ADA service. So that service generally provided as a matter of civil rights. So wherever you operate the fixed route service, you have to have some kind of complimentary paratransit for people who can't, because of their disability, use that. And then we do work with the senior center under the municipal grant program. It's not a very big program, but statewide it's about $5 million, and it's a formula grant that the town gets. 50% of the state's money is distributed based on the geographic area, and then the other 50% based on the population above 60, I think, or 65. So, and I do, there's one thing I want to say is that some of you may know, I know the mayor knows of this, we really had some mighty problems at the end of the pandemic, hiring the right people and retaining the right people, and had some on-time performance problems and some failures. We think we're out of that now. We created a brand new position for a person to help us oversee this mobility on demand office. So she's working, exclusively on these kinds of issues, and then with an eye towards expanding, going beyond the ADA service area, going, same day, which we currently don't do, which some seniors need if they can get that medical appointment. So we expect to be out of the remedial work in the next few weeks, and then onto something a little bit more progressive. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. And I do have one, if I can, for representative this time. The governor's budget has in it 26 new service improvements in bus transit in the state, 3 of which come to the Bridgeport region, 1 of which is specific to Stratford, and that's the Route 23, which currently works only in the morning and in the afternoon. And this would make that all day, which would make that service much more appealing and helpful to people trying to find jobs. So I hope I didn't overstep my boundaries with that, but you'll see those in the budget.
Okay, well, I'll keep an eye out. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for either Doug or Tammy regarding community services, senior services, GBTA? Mr. Pia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To both of you, thank you. It's, what both of you guys do is integral to the community, and you've helped some friends of mine and friends of mine's grandparents and over the last few years, and they've been very happy with the services. So,
great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just want to let everybody know that the GBTA is a line item in the agency's budget, and that's on page 19. You'll see it says Bridgeport Transit District, and that amount is the 18,620. That is staying the same as it has. You'll see it's been the same for the past 5 years. Probably longer, but we only show so many years.
At least 12,
in the
yep.
budget. Yeah.
Any further questions on this? This is another positive for our town, so we appreciate you both being here. Thank you so
Thank you very
much.
much.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
everything
Thank you, Mary.
tonight.
Thanks, Tammy.
I don't think we have anyone here from visiting service nurses that's on the agenda. That is pretty straightforward. It's on page 38. It's a straight, same amount of money. It's been 53.5 over the past few years, so we can just move on with that unless anybody has any questions. So Registrar of Voters is next, and I see we have our two registrars here with us tonight, and that's going to be on page 16. Big changes this year for the registrars.
The major change that we have in our budget is the addition of early voting. Even though the state has said that they would be reimbursing most of the expenses associated with that, we put together our budget, and if you took out the early voting expenses, which is how I calculated it, was basically every polling location, it costs us about $3,000 to run one polling location. If you're going to run that same polling location over 10 days, that would be $30,000. They are allowing us to supposedly consolidate all the 10 locations into one. So our job over the next few months will be to determine an appropriate location that can handle all 10 locations coming to vote in one location with enough, obviously, parking. And the real issue is going to be hiring the people to be able to cover this for 10 days. So we're on it. Without that included in our budget, we would actually have a 1.34% decrease from last year's budget. But unfortunately, we will put that in right now, and that's for 10 days, and it's for primaries and elections. They're saying that it could be up to 14 days or 18 days. It has yet to pass, so we'll see when it passes what we're handed, and then from there we'll deal with it.
Yeah, Lou and I spent last week at the ROVAC conference, all the registrars of voters in Connecticut getting together, spent a lot of time with our Secretary of State. You know, she said if she were a betting person, she would bet on 14 days, kind of in the final version of the bill. And it's going to be a nightmare to find people, because we do hire 110 people on a normal election day, but almost all of them have full-time jobs. They're not going to be able to give up 14 days or 10 days during the midweek to work for us. So our office did well during COVID, getting enough people. I think we'll get through this as well, but that's the most immediate challenge that we face.
So as far as the questions, I guess if the state does provide funding, then the 60,000 could go
Disappear.
lower or whatever. We don't know what that is, and we don't even know about the 10 days or the 14 days. And then we also don't know if this is going to go to 8 p.m. or is it like what the hours are going to be? Is it going to be a full day?
So what they're saying is, they're saying maybe 10 days or 12 days from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and then 2 days from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So it's not quite the 6 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay.
But it's still quite significant amount of time. You know, obviously with that, you know, if it comes down to 14 or 18 days, there's 3 bills that are out there right now. One of them obviously will be passing. And again, everyone's betting that it's going to be the 14 days as a compromise to the 10 and the 18. So from there, we're waiting. But again, the state has also in the past, when they instituted the optical scan machines, they paid for the first few years, and then of course they take it away and it's left to the town. So even though they may pay for this year or next year, eventually that will be the burden of the Stratford taxpayers.
So in your professional opinion, either one of you, what would be your preferred number of days for early voting? 5.
But yeah, I think, you know, again, I think what's going to happen is the first few days will be a bum rush to the polling locations, and then it's going to die down. So again, balancing of making sure we have enough people there the first few days, and then tailing off, and then maybe towards the end, having an increase in turnout again. But, you know, it's hard to tell.
And do you know if you would do open all 10 polling locations on every one of these days?
We've looked at the finances of that.
Yeah.
We've met with voters and try to get their opinion, and they simply want to vote in the place where they've always voted.
Right.
And there are 2 problems. We've run the numbers. We would literally have to double the size of our budgets to be able to pay for that. And school's open. So we use the gymnasiums generally, and for 10 days before Election Day, school activities are going on. We certainly can't take
So
that away from them.
logistically, it's not it's not
Correct.
feasible.
I would commend the Secretary of State for studying the other 46 states that have this. You know, if they all can do it, we certainly can too. And as Lou described, big turnout initially, nothing the next 5 or 6 days, slowly moving back up. With the one exception, this will cover 2 weekends, and we'll get more people during the weekend.
Just the other thing that, you know, in these other states, it does not increase voter turnout. This just is a convenience thing. So it's just another additional cost.
It's a convenience.
To us, right, exactly.
Yep, and people
Yep.
hardly know where to vote as it is, and now they get to
Right.
We're
figure
just
it out.
draining people from election day.
Yeah, and if it was all 10 locations, it would be a logistical nightmare.
Yeah.
And on top of it, doubling our budget would even be close. I think it'd be more tripling.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll have an answer for you up in Hartford soon. Chris, did you have a question?
My question was just more along the lines, Jim, you mentioned it at Rovac. I got to believe the other registrars around the state are feeling the same concern about having enough people to man this thing. So is the Secretary of State thinking about that too? Because, I mean, 14 days out of nothing, for most of your people, they are either retired or this is a part-time gig. So that's, I mean, good luck to her.
The Secretary of State wants to take this on as a major priority for her office. Sign up poll workers on a computerized, organized basis. We'll use whatever help we can get. We're very proud of the fact that 20% of our poll workers are high school students, but of course they'll all be in high school on Monday to Friday, so we really can't tap them as well. So it's going to be even a little bit tougher, I think, for us.
I hope it works out for the benefit of what we do and the day that it represents, but yeah, I'm not too optimistic about that.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you. The Secretary of State campaigned on a 10-day. So hopefully she'll prevail with 10 days, and the reasonableness will also prevail, and one voting location.
She's going to be outvoted. Yeah, it's going to be up to the legislature, and obviously, you know, we're not the ones driving that particular. Again, if they would have talked to the registrar's office, we would have said 7 days is probably more sufficient than, you know,
Right.
more than what's needed. Again, this is not, you know, Senator Murphy said he wanted 30 days of early voting. I mean, there's numbers that are flying out everywhere, but no one's looking at the actual cost. And again, this is not going to increase any turnout.
But we're with you. We'd rather start modestly. Let's try at 10 and then increase it. But that doesn't seem to be where they're headed.
Okay, thank you both for that, and appreciate your
Yeah,
budget
Madam
request. One
Chair,
more
a couple-
question, go ahead.
About this early voting, just raised a lot of questions. So there's a chance they won't allow one location?
There is a chance that, I know they've discussed not having one location, you know, so yeah, there's possibility. They're allowing, they're also talking about having public hearings to have the public be able to decide how many locations they want.
But a variation of that is, I mean, one is the norm, and I think you need a public hearing if you want to go beyond that. I'm optimistic it's going to be one.
Well, I guess reach out to Tammy for senior citizens to work, and
Hear, hear.
And just to add to the whole idea of people signing up to work, some of the people that sign up to work, you really, you know, don't want them working, so.
so again, it's another unfunded mandate is what's going to turn out to be.
And plus, all these people need to be trained. It's not like you just pull them off of the,
Yep.
And what one location do you think would be
We've
the,
actually went scouting out locations the last week, and we've looked at churches. We've looked at the only municipal buildings really available that could handle that particular type of volume would be the Birdseye Municipal Complex or the Baldwin Center. And Tammy was kind enough to let us into her little room down there, and centrally located, that would be the most optimal place. But again, it will interfere with parking, and there's not a place that's not going to have some sort of inconvenience to the programs that we run in town.
Town Hall really does not have a lot of parking, as you probably realize. It was kind of a surprise to me as I looked at it. Looked at a lot of churches, but they have service on Sunday. That their parking lot will be filled, and we have to have 2 Sundays worth of voter registration.
now, will you take the numbers each day, or what's the security involved with the voting machines?
So what they want us to do is, nobody's going to be entering ballots into the optical scan machine like you do on Election Day. It's more a combination of absentee ballot and Election Day registration, where they would complete their ballot, put it in an envelope, and those envelopes would have to be transferred to a secure location, most likely back here at Town Hall. And then on Election Day, they will be opened and processed. That's the generic, opinion that we're getting, and odds are that that's probably what's going to happen. But again, when we talk about, having polling hours from, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. just alone, I mean, when we bring them back to Town Hall here, the clerk's office is basically closed. So where would we lock them down? And if those 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., again, most of Town Hall's closed. I mean, we would have access, obviously, but the idea is to put them in a secure location for those 14 days leading up to Election Day before their process is another issue.
So you wouldn't be tallying these up day by day by day? You're going to just collect them, and then on election night...
Exactly. Just like absentee
Manuals.
ballots. Just like absentee ballots. We collect them over the time that they are received, and then on Election Day, they are opened and processed.
So with technology today, there's no easier way to do this? There's no...
I guess
Seems pretty archaic.
The drawback to opening them on a daily basis would be knowing that who's ahead, and then understanding that I need to go out and get more. So there's a drawback to that as well. So obviously, there's a lot of questions that we have going through our head as well, and it's just not going to be easy no matter what they decide. But at the same time, we'll do what we need to do to make it work.
So this 60,000 is an estimate?
Is an estimate.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'd like to commend the mayor for doing it. A lot of other towns are just holding their breath, keeping their fingers crossed that it's going to turn out. We will have the money here to pay our workers in November. They want to get paid after working at the polls instead of waiting for state funds to arrive in April or May or whatever.
Any other questions?
I'm a
Ms.
late. So please forgive me if you've already discussed. But just curious, because they have been doing early voting in the South forever, have we looked at some of the ways that they have are dealing with these issues or have dealt with them? Because we are behind them in this regard. Have we looked
So
at
a lot of different states have different equipment than we do that can handle that kind of early voting. We do not. And the equipment that we have, obviously, needs to be replaced. I mean, this equipment is approaching 16 to 18 years old, and we do have the Cadillac plan of, a policy that allows us to have yearly maintenance. But even the Secretary of State said that they're planning to replace all this equipment, obviously, before the presidential election. And some of the talk I don't like. They say this is the test run, but, this election is no different than next year's election to me, in my eyes. I mean, an election's election. If you're on the ballot, that election's important to you. Just because it's not a presidential year doesn't make it less important. I mean, you guys will be running, some of you. With that being said, to sit there and say this is our guinea pig election is ridiculous. But this is what's coming out of Hartford.
Secretary of State's office has a terrific report on the other 46 states, and we've learned from it. And tip number one was turnout doesn't go up. This is simply a convenience for people. I'm all in favor of the idea, but I guess I'm a little bit disappointed by that. And the second thing is this wave of high turnout and then dropping precipitously and then kind of slowly going up. And the third tip was to have multiple lines on the first day. There's going to be so many people who want to do this on the first day. We're going to have to deal with the nightmare of multiple lines in addition to only one place. And all 10 district ballots have to be in the same location. We have to be sure the person gets the right ballot.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further questions, we appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you.
And we can move on. We did Sterling House already, so we're going to move on to the library. I think Judy has a question. Hey, Sherry and Jerry.
Before they leave, I have to thank our registrars of voters for doing a fantastic program at the library last month on the issues around early voting, and I learned so much. I don't get to go to a lot of library programs because I'm busy running the library, but that was an outstanding program, one of our best. So thank you, Chris, for handing those out. He's
in-
everybody's assistant tonight. Thank you.
Page 36 in the booklet, if you're looking at the booklet, and then we also got this
Thanks.
nice handout from Sherry. Thank you.
And first of all, I want to thank you all for your work, and I recognize the volunteer efforts that you put in for our community, and thank you. I'd also like to highlight again our community partners, as Tammy has done so well. This summer, we have just found out we've gotten a grant to do something called a story walk, and we did one for Black History Month over at the African American Collection Museum. And so over the summer, you're going to see story walks in a variety of locations around town: South End Community Center, Sterling House in the library, Roosevelt Forest. What am I missing? Audubon Point. We're very excited. And a story walk will bring speakers to those locations, but we'll also have those story walks available for a period of time throughout the summer. So we're really excited about that. This past year, the library embarked on a strategic planning process, and I'm not going to go through it page by page, but in your packet you have an overview sheet that outlines what we did. And that strategic plan helped us make some important decisions about library services and what we need to be doing in order to serve our community. We have 4 major goals. 1, advancing our community. 2, being a gateway to Stratford. 3, addressing human needs. 4, investing in the library's future. Now, when it comes to addressing human needs, we are not putting ourselves out there as a social services agency, but we are merely a way to get people to the services they need. Without Tammy, without Danielle, we are not social services providers, but we are a neutral site where people go who do need help. Sometimes people feel a little stigmatized by seeking out services, and the library is a neutral zone to do that. And we make it a priority to train our staff to get people to what they need, not necessarily to provide what they need. The other area of our strategic plan that we are focusing on a lot in our budget this year is investing in the library's future. The top page on your packet is a detailed line-by-line budget for the library. The grant that's listed in the mayor's proposed budget, of course, doesn't have the detail, so I wanted to make sure that you had some of that detail. And the items in here that you see the greatest growth in terms of need are, of course, contractual employee benefits and payment. We also have a health insurance increase, which thankfully is lower than we were initially told, so we were able to revise our budget lower, which was great. And also, we are looking at things like, well, you'll see postage looks like a huge increase, but it's not really a big number. It's just a big percentage, but postage costs have gone up. We're looking at our utilities. Many town departments don't have to include utilities and building insurance on their budgets because they're in municipal buildings. The library's budget does include those items, so you see a lot of variation in our budget because of that. Do you have any questions?
Questions for the library? Go ahead.
For line item, for activities, for CDs, DVDs, they're still doing these things? They're not upgrading any of those things?
I'm
Just
sorry.
curious.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Are we still talking about CDs and DVDs?
We actually, it's funny, the description hasn't been updated, but people do still borrow DVDs. Yeah, and actually our CD collection has pretty much disappeared at this point, so I do need to edit that, but that was a very good catch. About 20% of our annual circulation is actually in downloadable materials, and I'm gonna pass it along to Jerry to talk to you a little bit about what that costs us, because they are not cheap.
Oh, sure. So, yes, as Sherry said, about 20% of our circulation is ebooks, e-audiobooks, downloadable things. And unfortunately, libraries don't get to purchase those at the same price that regular consumers do. You know, when we purchase a book, a print book, we actually pay sometimes a little bit less than a consumer would pay. But ebooks and other downloadables are, oh boy, they cost us way more. They can cost, well, I had an example here. Ebooks, for example, if you bought one, might be $12. For us, it's $45, and we only get to keep it because ebooks are never owned. By the way, you're renting them. Even if you think you've bought them from Amazon, they can take them away from you. For libraries, ebooks expire. So we basically get an ebook for 2 years or possibly 27 loans, and then it goes away. So we have to buy it again at $45 again. So the downloadable costs are astronomical for us.
So we are currently supporting both hard copy formats and the ebook formats. So it's been a burden on our budget.
Go ahead, Mr.
Through you, Madam Chair. How are you, ladies? To the point you just made about having to rent it for every 24 months, I would assume that you track downloads, and let's say the bottom 20% you don't make a decision to renew, right? Like,
Absolutely.
why? Okay.
Absolutely, we can track the circulation of all the titles, and if something's not going out.
And what, just out of curiosity, what's the threshold? Like, if it's at 13%, we're not going to pay $2,000 to renew it next year.
You know, I don't have the exact percentage off the top of my head.
Okay, I'm more curious. That's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't repurchase something that's no longer popular or used, so, yeah.
Mr. O'Brien?
I'm glad Lisette mentioned CDs and DVDs, so do you accept those for your annual book sale coming up?
We do.
Yeah?
We do.
Oh,
We are
good.
currently collecting
You're going to get some.
donations. Excellent. Clean them out of your house, we'll take them. We're looking forward to a big book sale this year. Very excited about that.
Bill, they don't want 8 tracks anymore.
Although LPs are back, so, you know, we have a stash of
Yes.
LPs that somebody donated, so we will have some of those, and they're pretty popular again. I don't know why.
So I see that your request was 5.71%, and we've proposed 3% in the mayor's budget. So how does that affect the
Well,
library?
Most of our budget request is in personnel costs, so it will have an impact on that line. Our budget does include a line item for unfunded liabilities, and I'll tell you a little bit about what that is. This year, that was $22,779. That is a payout for an employee who is retiring. They are eligible for half of their sick leave at their time of departure, so that's what that is. The $41,000 that we've put in the budget request for fiscal year '24 accounts for, we have 6 people currently eligible, so they're not all planning to retire next year. God help us, I hope not. But we did account for a portion of that cost. If we don't have the money in the budget to pay them out at the time they leave, then of course it means we have to delay the hiring of their replacement. That'll be an impact.
Are there any further questions for the library? Mr. O'Brien?
Actually, one thing we don't see, like for other departments, is headcount. How many employees do you have?
We hover right at about 48 to 49 people.
Combination part and full-time?
Yes. Yeah. And I did include information on the bottom about the board's contribution to the budget as well, since about, I would say 89% of our budget is covered through the town grant, and then the board works really hard to cover the rest. And one of the things that we have in our personnel budget this year is to work toward growing our development team so that we can increase the library's capacity to seek grants and do fundraising and find other ways to help support our many programs.
So are you back to full capacity with your fundraising events?
We are back to full capacity with our fundraising
That's
events.
good.
Yes, we'll have the book sale this year. We did our associates campaign, which never ends. That's the annual, you get a letter in the mail, and that's actually our biggest fundraiser. You have invitations to our gala at the end of the month. I hope you can make it. And yeah, we're looking for new ways to raise funds as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions for the library? And thank you for coming out. I think we're good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So that is the last item on our agenda for tonight. So I am going to, get rid of this, recess this meeting at 6:20 PM, and the next meeting will be on Wednesday, April 19th for the Board of Ed, and I hope everyone has a chance to look at the Board of Ed materials that went out from the superintendent and Pam Mangini, so that we can be prepared for a discussion on that day. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.